He's not only a great friend, but he's a business leader with over 4 decades, he's been around a while, of experience as an entrepreneur, a technology executive, an investment banker, and now his most important job as a public servant. For those of you that don't know, he also was a fantastic baseball pitcher, almost an All-American at Clemson University, with what they call a heavy, heavy fastball. He played for the famous Coach Wilhelm. Mike was tapped back in January by Governor Larry Hogan to lead the Maryland Department of Business and Economic Development. And prior to that appointment, Mike led Evergreen Advisors, previously founded Hoyt Capital. I think they came from Hoyt Wilhelm, if I'm not mistaken. And he founded First Page as well as Americom. He served as a chairman of Curtis Engine and Blue Fire Security Technologies, and also was a director of data systems for Ernst & Young. Mike also served on the University System of Maryland Board of Regents. His past and present board memberships include the Calvert Hall Board of Trustees, Baltimore County Economic Development Commission, St. Joseph's Medical Center, Bay National Bank, Towson University Board of Visitors, and the President's Advisory Board back at Clemson. Also very interesting, Mike was awarded an honorary Doctor of Human Letters degree by Towson University back in 1996. So technically, it's Dr. Michael Gill. Please welcome Mike Gill.
Hey, pal, how you doing? You know, Doug, I bet you I could get you out with that 40-mile-an-hour fastball I now have. Hey, thank you. It is so terrific to be here at the Doug Strauss Show, also known as the CEO Club. But it is fantastic. Doug, what year did it get started in Baltimore? 92. 92, and I was there with you.
You were there?
We're all part of the first team to get it going. Hey, one real quick Sonesta story, and then I do have some thoughts I want to share with you before I introduce my dear friend, Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford. So it's probably 15 years ago, maybe 10, 12, 14. So I've got a cousin who was filming a movie here in Baltimore, and she had been here for a month or two, and my mother always kept in contact with her, and she said, Ellen, tell all the cousins I want to have them down here for a little social hour before I leave. Well, my cousin is Melanie Griffith. So I'm like passing the word around to some of my buddies. Oh, yeah, Melanie's having us down to the Sonesta. Well, by the time that evening came, Melanie didn't realize, she thought she had about 7 first cousins. She ended up having about 42 of them. They were all lined up. Melanie, you know this one. So it was a crowded evening down there. Hey, here's some of the things on my mind, just to share with you quickly. First of all, with the deepest sincerity and meaning, thank you for your business in the state of Maryland. You're the customers. As I said when I took this position, there was a press conference, the governor introduced a few of us. It was confusing to me why people didn't understand who the customer was, because my whole life has been around the customer. You know, the state thought that they were the customer and you were here to serve us. But I tell you what, it's a lot more fun to serve you because you make it happen. A couple of things are on my mind. I love this job. I've loved every minute of it. January 21st, I was officially on the payroll. As the story went back in December, when I've got a phone call from Jim Brady, very close to the governor, Jim said, Mike, have you ever thought about being Secretary of Economic Development? I went, Jim, I got to admit, that wasn't on my radar screen. But I sure am flattered. So I got home that night, and I said to Mary, I got to tell you about this phone conversation. And I was sure she was going to say, and I would have bet the ranch, I would have bet whatever I had in my pocket, which probably was about $10, that Mary was going to say, you really wouldn't do that, would you? But instead she went, you know, honey, you could probably be pretty good at that. So here I am, 8 months later, and I'm still loving it. A couple thoughts real quickly. The governor, when he did ask me to step up and to consider this, he said, Mike, I ran on one thing. I ran on the economy of Maryland. I ran on the fact that we can make it work better. I didn't run on housing. I didn't run on clean the bay. I didn't run on transportation. I said we can make the Maryland economy work better. And if we can, guess what? You create revenues to do all that other stuff. Look how easy it is. Heck, maybe Baltimore County could even afford to air condition all those schools. I'm thinking to myself, Kevin, are you kidding me? We have 7 little grandchildren, and 5 of them are in one of those schools. It's not air conditioned. So I got to give cabinets a hard time when I see him next time. Some things on my mind about the state of Maryland. You know what? We have so much going for us. The glass of water to me is half full every single day. When you look at, I think all the time, I say to Brady Walker's my special advisor. Love that young man. He's doing a hell of a job. I say to Brady, when you dream big. Does it get you fired up to dream little stuff? Dream about big stuff. By the way, some of it's already happening. Port Covington, that's a big dream. Sparrows Point Terminal, that's a pretty big dream. Jim Rouse, he didn't finish everything before he died. He created a beautiful lake. He created a community. He created a center. But the Columbia Town Center had a long ways to go. And there's an organization called Howard Hughes. In the next 10 or 12 years, they're going to build 13 million square feet. It's going to be a live, work, and play community as much as any in the entire state of Maryland. So I always say, when you dream big. It's what gets you fired up. You know, we talk a lot about, I certainly do, about what does it take to be a top 10 state. It's not good enough just to be. You know, the goal, our business slogan for Maryland is not, you know, average is who we are. No. Top 10 is who we are. And I'm a rankings guy. You know, we look at basketball, we look at college football. There are more rankings. I can't keep up. But ranking states, that's the new game. There must be a ranking. I think Field and Stream has a ranking for the best states. But what are a couple of characteristics of those best states? One is they have to have a strong educational system, not just K through 12, but look at this. We go a half a mile that way, and we're in the middle of the University of Maryland campus, which is an unbelievable asset for this state. We go about 3 miles that way, Johns Hopkins University, the hospital system. We go 4 miles that way, we're at Homewood. Are you kidding me? There's about 48 states that would die just to have those 2 assets. So that's one of the top 10 characteristics. You got to have a strong educational environment. Second thing is you got to have diversity in your economy. The person who had this job before Governor Hogan thought it was good enough to live on federal government jobs. And then what happened? They dialed back. And we never had a plan B in the state of Maryland. We had great industries. We got cyber, we're pretty good. Life sciences, we're pretty good. Unmanned systems, we're leading the nation. We could be big time in that. Energy, we're strong. Manufacturing, believe it or not, there's 4,000 companies in Maryland. They're manufacturers, and they're on the technical side of manufacturing. So you look at the diversity of our economy, it's pretty daggum good. So you build on your strengths all the time. And the last thing is you got to have talent. We have more people with advanced degrees as a percentage of our population in the state of Maryland than any other state in the United States. I said to Anibal Basu not too long ago, he's chairman of our MEDC, the Maryland Economic Development Commission. Anibal's, I love the guy. He's crazy, he's witty, he's smart, he knows what he's talking about. I said, you know, Anibal, I bet you there's at least 40 states in this country that would swap their assets for our assets even up. Anibal said, Mike, I think it's more like 45 or 46. Do you realize that when we get our act together, and we will, and I'm sure my buddy over here, Lieutenant Governor Rutherford, will comment on it, around taxes and regulations, as I like to say sometimes, I always get a laugh, but I mean it, Virginia is overrated. And we get our act together on some taxes and regulatory issues, we'll be untouchable. And Terry McAuliffe really will have to get up early every day and try to convince another company to come to Virginia and give them another boatload of money because it's the only way they're going to go. So I really believe that we're on the right track and that's to be a top 10. Last couple quick thoughts. This is just something that I try my best to think about it, live by it, wake up in the morning. Eventually, if you do it often enough, it becomes part of your DNA. I love the expression, we're only here for a flicker. We're only here for a flicker. And all that really says in all of mankind, how long is our time here? It ain't very much. So why do we ever leave anything on the table? Why do we ever leave anything on the table? When Boyd and I first participated in the governor's first cabinet meeting, you know, the governor asked me to make a couple remarks, and I said to my teammates, we got a great team, by the way, the cabinet folks, we're all about yes. If you say no, you're probably going to get kicked off the team. We say yes. But I stood up in front of the cabinet officers, and I said, gang, who knows how long any of us are going to be here? There's somebody here today who's going to be here 60 more days for different reasons. They're going to go do something else. They're going to be here for a year, 4 years, 8 years. I said, but whatever time we're here, don't look back and say, woulda, coulda, shoulda. You only get one shot. I mean, this state was going off a cliff for so long, and I can't tell you, if the other guy had gotten elected, the line of cars leaving this state, it would still be a line of cars. You have to see it up close to appreciate that. But, so guess what? That was yesterday. Today is Governor Hogan. Doesn't matter whatever happened before. It's all about what we're going to do now and tomorrow. So woulda, coulda, shoulda, we're not leaving anything on the table. But again, Duggar, thank you, buddy. You're one of my dearest friends. Thank you for letting me be part of this. I am excited. You all, many of you are business owners. That's where the courage is. Everybody thinks they can start a business. Everybody thinks they can run a business, but they have no idea until they're involved. Matter of fact, I always say the punchline should be, who pushed me? How did I end up where I am? But guess what? A lot of you did. We're going to do everything we can on our end, the Lieutenant Governor and I and our team, everything we can to make it possible for you to live your dreams, never ever have the state government in your face, have them at your side or at your back to help you get to where you want to get to. But anyway, that's my thoughts today, and I want to introduce my partner, Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford. We hung out in Paris. Is that a great line? We hung out in Paris a few months ago. We went to the Paris Air Show. It was all business. We had lots of meetings with the Thalases of France and with the Cobhams from England and with Boeing and with General Electric, and you name them, we were with all of them. And we've gotten some business since then with some of these organizations. Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford, this was a great one. This was who pushed me. The Washington Post had an article about when the Lieutenant Governor became the chosen person by Governor Hogan. And he said, I didn't have an excuse when he called me. so here I am. But his background, great background, had a senior position at GSA, the federal government, and the USDA. Was Maryland's Secretary for the Department of General Services during Bob Ehrlich's term as governor. Great experience in the state of Maryland. He's as customer service focused as anybody I've ever met. Every time we're together, we're talking about customers. So you can be assured that that'll always be a major theme. And now he's Maryland's Chief Operating Officer. I guess I'm the Chief Sales Officer, and Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford, my friend, the Chief Operating Officer and Lieutenant Governor of our state, Boyd Rutherford.
He is the chief sales officer in the state, and I don't know how I can follow that kind of energy that Mike brings. It is a double-edged sword when you say we were palling together or traveling together in Paris. But we did have a good time between Mike and our consultant there singing 80s or 70s TV show themes or whatever it was when we were driving in the terrible traffic. You think traffic is bad here? Go to Paris. It's not that great.
Go next time because the traffic.
But thank you for having me, and it's great to be in Baltimore with so many CEOs, business leaders, and professionals that are helping to bring Maryland's economy back. And just as Mike was talking about, the singular focus of our administration is economic growth, business development. There's no question about that the governor and I realize that business is the lifeblood of the state. And by creating jobs, creating opportunities, we have that money that Mike talked about to pay for those other priorities that we have. And we have such a wonderful set of assets in this state that there's no reason that we're not outperforming our neighbors as well as some of the other states in the country. I went way off my talking points, but I just wanted to state that First I should say that, the governor's doing well. He's been in the news in terms of his battle with cancer. It's actually amazing the kind of energy he still has after going through 4 treatments. He goes again tomorrow for another 5 days of chemo. He has a great attitude, which keeps us all going. But, it's one of those things, the negative for him as well as us, is that when he is in chemo, they give him these steroids along with the chemo, and he can't sleep. So we get emails at like 2 in the morning, and then another one at 4 in the morning, another one a little before 6. Now, most of us are asleep, so when you wake up, you got all these emails, and usually by the 3rd email, he's flaming about something that, we'll say, okay, we're taking care of that. It's working out. And so it's kind of, you're saying, please get well soon. But, the governor, like Mike said, had asked me to join him. I guess it was back in December, and I got a call from a friend to meet him for coffee. And when the call came in, or after I got off the phone, I said to my wife, I said, I hope he's not going to ask me to run for lieutenant governor. Because at that point, I just was not like Mike. I was not thinking about this being the next line of work or an opportunity for me. But in talking to Larry, who had been a friend for many years, our families are friends. His middle child and my oldest son actually went to high school together. And so they knew each other before we knew each other, but our families had socialized together, so it turned out to be a good match. And he felt there was something I could bring to the party. But Larry had led the charge for 4 years prior to us coming in terms of opposing, as an opposition leader essentially, warning of the high taxes, the policies of increased regulations, and an anti-business attitude that was devastating the state's economy. We had 40 consecutive tax and fee increases, regulation after regulation piled upon a struggling economy, and we were no longer able to compete with the states around. Even though, as Secretary Gill has said, Virginia is overrated. Their traffic is about as bad as Paris. I don't know if you tried to travel around in Northern Virginia lately. But we lost Fortune 500 companies and close to 8,000 other companies during the last 8 years. We lost 100,000 jobs, and our unemployment rate doubled in the state. And that shouldn't happen with all the assets that Mike was just talking about that we have. But unfortunately, we had, and still have, a lot of out-of-touch politicians in Annapolis that created several self-inflicting wounds. One, an anti-business environment. Second, over-regulation, and then ever-increasing taxes. And that put us in a hole. But fortunately, in this, are we 8 months in now? It's one long day. It's just one day. From that phone call that I got from Larry, it's been one long day since then. Hopefully, in 2 weeks, I'm going to take a few days off with the wife and try to get away. Try to get away, is what she says. But, our focus, as I mentioned, our entire focus is to make sure that Maryland is open for business, that you have a seat at the table and friends in Annapolis, as well as up the street with Mike Gill's office here in Baltimore. Moments after the governor was sworn in, he killed over 100 new job-killing regulations that were left by the previous administration. We then put together a team of leaders coming from business with successful business experience to help run a more efficient and cost-effective government and customer-friendly. Answer the darn phones, we tell people also. We don't usually use darn, but this is a public forum. So businesses are starting to come back. After hitting pretty much rock bottom, we were ranked 50th among 50 states in terms of job creation, dead last. But we now have been adding jobs at a quicker pace than the rest of the region, and one of the highest in the country. Over the summer, Maryland was ranked third in private sector job creation, and the long-term trends are very good. We are now 7th ranked nationally in private job creation and #1 in the Mid-Atlantic. Again, Virginia is overrated. The governor promised once we began to get spending under control, we would start rolling back as many of the tax and fees that have been increased over the last 8 years. And we've taken a step toward that. First, in the legislative session, we eliminated the rain tax mandate. We also were able to get cuts in military pensions. And for the first time in recent memory, there were no new tax increases during the legislative term. And on July 1, we cut tolls at every facility across the state. That was the first time in 50 years in the state of Maryland that tolls have been reduced. Essentially, that's the largest tax relief package that we have put forth to this date. That reduction alone essentially allows Marylanders to keep over $250 billion in their pockets. We understand that when Marylanders are able to keep more of their money, rather than sending it to the bureaucrats and the politicians like myself, I'm now a politician, in Annapolis, they will spend that money wisely. They will put that money into the economy, investing and spending and creating jobs and opportunities for others. So that is the mission that we continue to go forward with. We're changing that anti-business environment. As mentioned before, we understand that business is the lifeblood of our economy, of our state. And I know that Maryland, with the business leaders that we have here today, that we are going to be very successful as we go forward. Now, in the months ahead, the governor and I will continue to focus on getting Maryland's fiscal shop in order. We will renew our efforts to pass a structurally balanced budget and restrain spending. We're committed to putting the state on a new path of economic prosperity. It's actually an exciting time. Like what Mike just said, I'm a little tired, but I have enjoyed every minute of being whatever I am, lieutenant governor here. You know, one long day, like I said, one long day. But we value what businesses large and small bring to the state. And as mentioned before, you have friends in Annapolis. You have a seat at the table. You are able to contact us with the challenges that you may be having. Some of you may know that the governor established a regulatory reform commission, which actually is meeting today in College Park, and has additional meetings, I think, in Harford County next week and some others around the state, looking at a top-to-bottom approach to reviewing the regulations that affect job creation, that may be outdated, that may be cumbersome, and how they work. Now, in some cases, the regulations may be fine, but the interpretation is a problem. And that's another issue that our leaders in the various departments are addressing as well, making sure that there's consistency in the interpretation. And as the good secretary said, you know, making sure we're customer focused and not just playing a gotcha game, not just walking in and saying, oh, wait a minute, that's not right, you have to redo it, or you have to resubmit your permit request. How do we help you comply with the regulations? That should be the way that we're approaching it. No, you can't do it this way, but if you do this, it'll work. And that's what we need to do, and that's what we're working hard to do. Now, it's been close to 8 months. I think 8 months on the 22nd, and we're just getting started. We have a lot more work to do, but we need your help in all of that. We need you to talk to your legislators. Many of them don't quite understand that allowing people to keep money, it actually is good for the economy. It actually increases tax revenue when that money churns through the economy. There's an education process that we have to work on, and we do. We talk to the legislators all the time and try to explain that to them. Most don't quite understand it, but we try to explain that, there's a reason that business is there, and there's a reason, or money comes from someplace. It's just not free. It doesn't float down like fairy dust, which I'm not sure they all quite get that, but with time it will work. So we look forward to working with all of you and continuing the effort to change Maryland for the better. So with that, I thank you very much, and I'm willing to take some questions.
Thank you. Anybody has questions, come up to the microphone and ask them to be recorded.
I think we could probably, oh, they.
Governor, Secretary.
Good job, pal.
Okay.
Great. You didn't get a haircut. I just got a haircut.
Well, thank you for coming. It's a great honor to see you, and it's been a great honor for Larry Hogan to take over as governor. So a long time in the state, so we need someone with that.
Testing. I can sing now.
You're going to sing a song?
So one of the things that, most of, I would probably say most of us here are Republicans. One of the problems that we're having as a state is to maintain Republicans maintaining in power. And I think one of the things that Larry Hogan's doing is fantastic, all these economic incentives and stuff, and we are going to rebuild us back to be a business state. But I think we need to do other things. As a company, we're starting a foundation called the Venture Web Foundation, which we will be giving inner city children an opportunity.
Repeat that name again?
Venture Web Foundation. My company's an internet web development company.
Okay.
So we're starting a foundation called the Venture Web Foundation, and we want to give inner city kids that are straight A students, athletes, scholarships to where I went to high school, which is Mount St. Joe. And I believe that as other businesses start to do things like this, we can turn the Democratic vote into a more Republican vote. And it'd be great if the governor and you guys come up with a plan that companies like us that are doing such things to give us incentives. Okay, so we're going to start this Venture Web Foundation. We're going to give scholarships. We're spending a lot of money doing so. Right. There would be, if we had some sort of economic incentives, like if we're going to invest $100,000 a year in scholarships, then is the state willing to say, well, we're going to give you a $100,000 loan at very low interest rates or some sort of tax incentive? And I think if we come up with a unique idea like that, you'll see many more of these people also start wanting to help the Democrats become Republicans and be more business oriented.
Well, let me ask you, would you do it if you didn't have an incentive?
We don't have an incentive. Yeah, we don't have an incentive, but we are doing it. So
yeah, I mean that's a good idea, and there are a number of places where businesses like yours are doing things of that nature, and we can coordinate and see how we can work that through some of the existing programs that the state may have with regard to some scholarship programs. But you're talking about the potential low interest loans. There are a couple of places where we have loan funds. They tend to be more specific, but it's something that you talk to Mike about. He can pull some of the other resources.
I think it's think out of the box mentality of.
Like sit around a table and just talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
See what the
and then we can figure out how to get there. When we can identify exactly what you're trying to do and what you think would be worthwhile. And not just from, say, the partisan aspect, but because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. In terms of just helping people to get out of a particular rut and change the lifestyle and understand the opportunities that really are there in front of them. When I've had opportunities to speak to a number of younger people, as you can tell with the red eyes and lack of hair, I can now say young folks and youngins and young people, I stress to them that there are opportunities out there. That don't let anyone tell you there are no opportunities out there for you. That no matter what's going on around you, there are plenty of opportunities, and most of those opportunities you can't imagine at this point. Like I said, I mean, just a year ago, I couldn't imagine being lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. So, but telling these kids you're preparing for those opportunities when they come. So yes, that's great, and we can sit and talk to Mike, and we'll look at other state resources and how we can possibly help in that.
Thanks.
Hello, good to see you again.
Good to see you, thank you.
My name is Wanda Smith. I am the founder and CEO of Symphony Placements. We are a flexible staffing and HR solutions company. I'm an MBE, DBE, and WBE, and now a WOSB. My company will celebrate. I know, that's all right. They're not bad.
I was trying to track it through, but that's okay.
Okay. Anyway, we'll celebrate 10 years next year. I have tried to remain active within the Maryland Chamber of Commerce on the Legislative Committee. And at our recent meeting, we looked at the agenda of certain bills that are coming our way this session. It is perhaps one of the most challenging and time-consuming, because I'm always there testifying against sessions that I have seen probably in the last 6 or 7 years. It all revolves around employers with 5 or less employees, whether they're talking about a bill for a private pension plan or a Healthy Family Working Act, where we need to give 1 paid hour of PTO to every employee who works 30 hours, not 40, but 30. And then we have the problem of now it's shielding instead of checking the box or banning the box. Putting employers in the state in a line of peril, such as the staffing industry, which employs almost 500,000 people every day in the state. We are asked specifically on state contracts to do background checks and so forth, and now that information, if this bill comes out and is passed, we won't be able to see if we are placing certain convictions in the workplace. I guess I'm asking for our governor and for you to be very vigilant about these bills and hope that they don't get voted in.
Well, I mean, we can't necessarily affect the vote, but I can tell you, you speak into the choir with regard to most of those provisions. I mean, they are, job killers for the most part. The governor and I, agree on virtually everything, so I know I can speak for the governor in saying that if it did come on his desk, he's going to be vetoing them. But we will, we're going to be selective in terms of what our legislative agenda is. We will let the legislators know that we don't support and the reasons why we may not support some of these positions that we're hearing that they're talking about bringing out. Most of them are union-based, union-backed bills. But we need the business community, we need the Chamber of Commerce to not write a check to some of these clowns out there. Did I say clowns?
Yeah.
I usually say knuckleheads.
Yeah, I've met a few of them.
But, not write checks to them, not support them, not take their calls, not go to their events. And that goes for the leadership in the State House. Don't go to their events. Don't go to the chairperson of these committees. They need to understand that there's more than just the unions, and because they're so used to it being a single party approach, one party, a state-run newspaper, Mexico on the Chesapeake, that they can do whatever they want. So yes, we need you all to help by pounding on those legislators to say, look, we're not going to go for this. Don't call me. All right, don't call me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Well, I want to thank you for coming over, and I've been looking forward to talking about some of my issues with the new government. I've been challenged many years. I've been in business for 20 years. My name is Rohit Patel. I'm with a company called Intellect Corporation, and we have been suffering through almost hell and more with the previous government. We see a change in the new administration, so it's just like a breath of fresh air. To be honest with you, with 20 years of being in business in the state of Maryland, most of those years were incredibly growing years. We had employed at one point over 200 folks in the state. We're down to about 33. And primarily because we weren't getting paid by the state. The state of Maryland had given us contracts that were extremely unfair. We were forced to take on work that we didn't want to take on. We were awarded contracts and then taken away. These contracts were taken away. We just won a contract in April for $15 million for the state of Maryland. And I got a source that just told me that they're going to cancel the award and not give us a notice to proceed. So
What department is this through?
This is the Maryland Transit Administration.
Okay, what type of services do you provide?
We provide construction, technology type services, and we've been nationally recognized. We've been in the Inc. 500, we've been the top MBE businesses in the state of Maryland, top technology firms.
Why are they canceling the contract? Did they tell you why they were going to do that?
Initially, they were saying that it was because of the experience, and then they came back and they sent us this long questionnaire, which I've never seen. I've been doing business with the state of Maryland. I was the Employee of the Year in the state of Maryland multiple times when I used to work for the state of Maryland. So I worked for the DGS. I was State Employee of the Year for DGS. I've been Entrepreneur of the Year with Ernst & Young. I've been the State Employee of the Year with the Maryland Transit Administration. So, you know, I've done a lot of things.
Was the contract approved by the Board of Public Works?
Not yet.
Okay, so it's...
Because I believe, I mean, I just wrote an email to my attorney this morning, at 4 o'clock this morning, said, be prepared to file a protest. This is the third or fourth protest that we're going to be filing in the last year and a half. In this one contract alone, we spent over $750,000 in legal fees just to get paid fair and equitably.
Okay. Give me your card before I walk out. Write the name of the contract, or if you have the contract number, something that identifies, and I'll follow up with MTA on that.
Yeah, and the troubling thing about all of this is the folks that have put us in this position, one of the key folks in that room said, we will put you out of business if you don't accept our offer. And at the time...
Wait a minute, is that person still there?
Yes.
Okay, put the name down too.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So, and make sure you do that and give it to me before I leave.
Hi, my name is Craig Weisbaum. Thank you so much for being here. I own a company called Talking Tree Creative. We do event production for mostly larger enterprises and video production, media production, and marketing in the media space. I guess my question and favor is to ask is in reforming all the regulations, I feel like in the past, and this comes from a particular experience that I had with the last administration. In the past, the small businesses such as ourselves, we're under $2 million a year, are really the same regulations are applied to us as large enterprises, and it really does stifle our ability to grow. And I had and in addition to that. That factor of size of business and what regulations we have to follow is, I hope that we'll pay attention to the fact that we're now in a 21st century workforce.
Right.
So many people telecommuting, and especially at this time when I had my experience, I was running my business out of my home. And all my employees were working out of their homes. And it seems that the laws and the regulations are not anywhere up to date to handle that.
You're right. We're in a, for lack of a better term, we're in an Uber world now. And a lot of things are virtual, and most of these regulations were written with brick and mortar in mind when it was major manufacturing and heavy industry, and and it's been applied across everything, and they haven't been looked at or addressed since they were first written. If anything, they were layered on top. They layer on top more regulations. So that is part of what the mission of the Reg Reform Commission is doing, is updating and understanding that we're in a new world now, that there are a lot of businesses that do not operate the way that they did 50 years ago or so. I mean, look at your phone now and, what you may have had just 10 years ago compared to what it is now. So it's basically a computer that you have in your pocket. So it's a different world, and you're absolutely right. And members on our commission, many of them are small business owners. I don't think we have any that are in a lot of the virtual businesses, but many of us know about that business and know, Gil comes out of technology area. He and I actually worked for a similar company many moons ago and it was technology that is now coming back with the You know, they call it the cloud. At that time, they called it time sharing, but it's now the cloud. But it's much more powerful than what we were selling. But yes, many of us know about these challenges, and we're going to be looking at it.
And the follow-up to that is really the enforcement of it also. So my experience was that I got audited by the DLLR. And we operate as like a general contractor would. We hire a lot of subcontractors, a lot of freelancers, and they seemed like arbitrarily chose a ton of names off my 1099 list and said these are actually employees. And the criteria is what totally flabbergasted me. When they came out to do the audit, and they're looking through, and I give them a name and a tax ID number with a company name, and they say, well, this is an employee, this is not a contractor. And I said, well, what criteria do I need to meet for you to define them as a contractor? And they actually said, do they have a business card? Do they have a website? I mean, I was absolutely flabbergasted. This was the state auditor.
Because they have no concept. They're thinking in a corporate world versus the virtual world. Before I got this job, I probably had 5 different business cards because I would consult with different organizations, and they wanted me to be listed as someone that I can give and representing the company or the law firm. So yeah, they don't understand that. So,
well, I think
those are things.
Yeah,
our leadership over at Dollar Now is looking into these things as well.
Okay, well, thank you.
Give us a little time because we still have to push down through the bureaucracy.
Right.
But thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there, Christina Ensley with Rudolph's Office and Computer Supply. And first of all, I want to thank you and the Governor. The state of Maryland is one of our largest customers, and we have been working with Secretary Bassett, and what a breath of fresh air. So thank you for the team that you put together. I did want to take this opportunity due to your comments and Wanda's comments and ask if anyone here is aware of the group MBRG.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to put in a quick commercial for MBRG. It is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, and I've recently been appointed to the board, and I'm excited to be a part of it. As I said, nonpartisan, nonprofit. Their goal is to educate community leaders and people about the politicians who vote for the bills that are for or against Maryland businesses. They put out I think it's quarterly, it's called the Roll Call, and you can actually see your legislators and how they vote on the bills that affect your business. So I would highly recommend just taking a look at the website. It's really changed the way I look at the people that I send money to and don't send money to. So that's it.
MBRG, now I'm not sure exactly when it came about, but when I came in contact with them several years ago, at least 12 or so years ago, they really were coming as, they realized, as was mentioned about the Chamber of Commerce, that the Maryland Chamber of Commerce was very ineffective. They were going along, getting along with the powers in Annapolis. And so they came in to step up and really point the finger at those legislators who talk to you, out in the field, but when they get to Annapolis and you're not paying attention, they're voting for all this stuff that they may have told you they weren't going to vote for. And then act like, oh, well, I don't know what you're talking about, whatever. So thank you. Sir.
Probably last questions. I know the Lieutenant Governor other meetings.
Well, I'm sure he does.
Okay.
Great. And I know we're standing between everyone and lunch, so I'm very aware of that. Thank you for being here, Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Secretary. My name is Rob Weinhold. I have a company called Falsa Group. We do a lot of crisis and issue management, strategic communications and media, and safety and security. And my question is this: with the recent unrest in Baltimore, I happen to do a lot of interviews, Fox News, CNN, some of the national programs, and I get asked often, not just about public safety policy, but the impact on the business community. And so, Mr. Secretary and Lieutenant Governor, as you speak with people in other jurisdictions who are nervous or afraid about coming to Baltimore, obviously you've got a lot of great talking points, but what is the tone and tenor out there, and how many years, if at all, do you feel like all of that unrest has really set your efforts back as you look through the business lens? Thank you.
I think Mike probably has a better feel for that in terms of talking to the businesses. I mean, you know, the businesses I've talked to are more local. They're already here. But I would think the, you know, essentially bad PR that we received had to have some effect. But there is, you know, somewhat of a distinction between being in Baltimore City versus other parts of the state. And so, like the DC metro area, or even being, you know, when you get closer to Aberdeen and places of that nature, people can see a distinction there. But Mike may be able to address that better.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. One, I think most of the negativity, good news, bad news, is outside the borders of Maryland. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't know it if you're inside the borders of Maryland. But if you happen to travel to South Carolina, or you go somewhere else, and somebody goes, boy, you got some real issues up there, don't you? But some of the real positive things, I mean, developers come by and see me often to give me updates on things. They sometimes are, the enthusiasm that they have blows me away. People like Doug Schmidt's workshop, Mark Saperstein, Wells Obrecht, Greenberg Gibbons, Mike Beatty, the group that's developing right through here, Cave Valley Partners, they all have projects going on all over the city. And the red line that isn't going to happen, which was the right thing, those guys don't care. They're already thinking about, how do I move people from A to B to C? So they're being proactive about it. Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, huge employers, they're all doubling down. The way I look at it, if we get a real leader next April, because whoever wins in April is the next mayor. If Baltimore City is trading at $2 a share, it goes to 10 the day of that election. Because the assets inside this city are off the charts. So I think the best thing everybody can do is, I told Roger Wacian, a lot of you know Roger. Roger's CEO of COP, and he got a lot of heat because he bought the Transamerica building, he bought 250 West Pratt. It all happened was around when the riots were occurring. He said, boy, my board, they think I'm crazy. I said, well, let me tell you what, a year from now they're going to think you're brilliant. Right. There's more millennials coming into Baltimore right now. We're the 3rd leading city in the country for millennials. They're coming in here. So I think Baltimore has a lot of positives. Most of the bad news is outside the state of Maryland.
And I agree with what you're saying, and maybe we talk offline, but those 2 or 3 talking points as we give national interviews are really, really important, and we hope to get them. By the way, I think Steve Moyer's doing a hell of a job. So.
He is doing a great job. Great job. And I'll just add, I think that, and you know, this is just my feeling, and I think the governor feels the same way. The Governor or Mayor Rawlings Blake's decision to not run actually frees her to work with us to do some really good things in Baltimore to continue the growth that Secretary Gill just talked about. I think it frees her up from the political back and forth to worrying about what this group is saying, what that group is saying, and what she was getting in her ear from the national party in terms of, oh, you got to take this, you know, Republican governor down. And so now she is able to focus on the legacy that she's going to leave behind, and we can work together to get some things done in the city. So I think that is a positive there.
Hey, Boyd, we miss you in Columbia. You know, I've seen Governor Hogan's redistricting commission, and I don't know how much political capital and effort his vision is to implement into that. But to the extent that the state, the federal, and even the county legislative districts can be drawn by nonpartisan people, as you know what it's like in Howard County.
Right.
And my pitch to you is that, you know, there must be a plan, but the more strategic it is, the more you get the Alan Kittlemans and the Steve Shoes and even these people in Western Maryland, you know, if they are gerrymandered by Republicans,
right,
but you present it as a nonpartisan thing, you know, we want the voters to decide, because 2020 is coming up soon, and the strategic opportunity right now to change that process will outlive Hogan, outlive Rutherford, and the culture of Maryland can change if that happens.
Well, we're working on it. I mean, there's, you know, in terms of the public, there's overwhelming support for sending this to a nonpartisan commission to put together these legislative districts. It's the status quo that is protecting their positions that are opposed to it.
I mean, I'm saying, like, if you say this isn't just about Democratic gerrymander districts, but if you say the Republican gerrymander districts, you know, we want everyone to be fair.
Right.
Obviously, you know,
it's nonpartisan. Now, the one thing now, it's still early in the process, is that right now we're fairly popular as far as polls, our administration is concerned, and so if there is any chance that the other party thinks that we can be reelected, then Governor Hogan will be drawing the districts.
Sure.
And so they don't want that either.
Right.
So it may be in their best interest to agree with us, and agree with the vast majority of Marylanders. Common Cause is supporting us in this. So, you know, it would be in their best interest to work with us on a nonpartisan commission.
Let's get Gil out there selling it, and we'll have a chance.
Okay, thank you.
Lieutenant Governor, you made a very important point that I think needs to be repeated to all business owners, and it is about giving money and donations and going to events for politicians who don't support your business views. I spent 10 years as a PAC chairman, volunteer for an organization. In my opinion, you speak with a louder voice when you politely decline their request for money, or you politely decline their request for their event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you.
And the esteemed Secretary Mike Gill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to break for lunch now, everybody, and we'll get back to our program.